Greetings, family. Welcome back to the African Exodus show. This is the Conspiracy to Erase a Nation segment. This entire lecture series is around a book that I wrote called Conspiracy to Erase a Nation. It is available on Amazon and also as a Kindle version as well. If you wish to see a quick version of this book that you could use to download, maybe you want to share it with a family member or just use it as a witnessing tool, or maybe you just want a prequel about what the book is about, you can download that from my Telegram. Telegram is very easy to download. It's inside of the description. You click the link, it takes you right to the application. There in the pinned comment on the top, that is where the download is. I get some people who are not able to locate it. It's literally at the top of the screen. That's where you'll see the free PDF. Also, I just want to let you all know that this full lecture is going to be available on Telegram. It might also be on Rumble. I will direct you from Telegram where it's located. But the reason is it's going to be another one that is controversial, and I'm not going to risk it with the YouTube algorithm. So you're watching an edited version of this lecture. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can watch the full version by going to my Telegram. It's either going to be uploaded on Telegram or I'll post the link from Rumble. So a real difficulty that I think, or a hurdle rather, that people have whenever they're trying to analyze and look at the research as far as the accusation that Palestine was not where Israel, biblical Yasharel, was located. The biggest hurdle for us understanding this is that all of the documentation, all of the historical records, right, all of the agreements inside of the scholarly realm, inside of the institutions of higher education, everyone agrees that Palestine was where the kingdom would have been, even though there was different levels of disagreement as far as whether or not Israel as a nation really existed the way that the Bible says it existed. So if that's the case, if all these people have agreed to this, if there appears to be the history, we see that the Israelis right now are fighting for this territory, saying that this is where our ancestors came from. If there's so much evidence of this, then how is it the case that us today, we don't see the same evidence inside of East Africa? And not only that, how could it be that this place where there does seem to be evidence, everything was manufactured, everything was fabricated, none of it is original? So we have to first understand again that this is all a part of the Edomite conspiracy. We're going to go back to talk about the Edomites. Remember, we spoke about the Edomites fleeing into Arabia. We spoke about three nations or three names that became associated with Edomites that we find throughout Arabia, one being Dedan, one being Timan, the other one being Basra. These Edomite clans went into Arabia. Now, from Arabia, they became known as the Manaeans. And the Manaeans, slowly, as we spoke about in the last lecture, made their trek up north to Palestine. In Palestine, they became known as Nazarenes, and also many started mixing the Torah belief, the faith that they've adopted, started mixing it with Zoroastrianism. Now, you might say, did the Edomites really adopt the Torah? Well, we can see evidence of this. I'm going to read a couple of scriptures to you. So when you read 1 Ezra 5:66 through 69, we see some evidence that the people who would come to replace Yasharel inside of the Holy Land were Edomites. So it says that, wherefore, when the enemies of the tribe of Yehuda and Benjamin heard it, they came to know what the noise of the trumpets would mean, and they perceived that they that were of the captivity did build the temple unto Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharel. So they went to Zerubbabel and Jesus, obviously not Yahusha, another person with that name, and to the chief of the families, and said unto them, we will build together with you. For we likewise, as ye do obey your Lord, and do sacrifice unto him from the days of Abazareth, the king of the Assyrians, who brought us hither. Now you might wonder how we know that these people were Edomites. Well, if you go to 1 Ezra 4:50, it says that the Edomites had control over the villages of the Yahudim. They held control during the Assyrian captivity. This is important to know because we have right here a good explanation as far as how did the Torah get all the way from East Africa all the way up to Palestine? Well, because the people who would later become known as Manaeans, who were Edomites, brought the teachings of the Torah up to Palestine, and they brought holy books up to Palestine as well. So from Palestine, again, they developed their faith. They become known as the Mandeans. The Mandeans later on are going to be known as Judaism. So with that, I want to talk about the proof that I have that Judaism in itself is a Edomite religion. We're going to talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So first, again, if you don't know, the Dead Sea Scrolls are really the most monumental discovery really of the last century or even just all modern times, because prior to the Dead Sea Scrolls, people who were skeptics of the Bible would try to push up the date as far as when the Bible was composed to say that it was a recently written book. From the Hebrew books up to the New Testament, all of it was more recent than what we have said it was, right? And because of that, the Dead Sea Scrolls really changed the entire conversation, because at the bare minimum, the copies of the books of the Bible that were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls were at least dated to the 2nd century BCE, at least, and I believe it goes back way further. So because of that, you can't say that the Bible was something that was created so recently. No, this pushes back the dating, because these are copies of the original manuscripts of the Bible. So what are the Dead Sea Scrolls? They are a Hebrew library, essentially, a library of Hebrew writings that were kept and maintained inside of caves inside of Qumran. They're very significant also because not many early manuscripts, biblical manuscripts, were able to survive, because as you all probably know, over time things disintegrate. However, because of the conditions of the cave, well, as far as being able to maintain the scrolls even despite time, because of that, they've really been a testament to the fact that the ancient Hebrew books, many of which were taken out, such as Jubilees or such as 2nd Ezra's and 1st Ezra's, all of these books actually were of the original canon of the ancient Hebrews. So when you understand the significance of them, then you have to figure out who were the people who kept the Dead Sea Scrolls, who were the people who maintained these ancient documents, again, the most monumental discovery of recent times. Many biblical scholars have claimed that the people who have kept the scrolls were Essenes. Essenes were a sect of Judaism. And this sect of Judaism was known to live communally, known to have different rules and different regulations as far as purity, ceremonial purity. And so because some of these traits are found inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls, scholars have automatically assumed, well, the people who kept the scrolls must have been Essenes. I would say that that is very circumstantial, obviously, because there's other groups who also match this exact description of being communal and of following ceremonies of ritual purity. One that I believe are the true keepers of the Dead Sea Scrolls were the Mandeans. So remember, we talked about the Mandeans last time. The Mandeans at the time of this were a great group inside of Palestine. They had a lot of influence. We know that they saw themselves as Jews, okay? We know that they see themselves as being the ones who are practicing the faith accurately. That's how they present themselves. That's how they see themselves. We see a number of things inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls that point to the fact that these were Mandeans. Some of the things, for example, is the verbiage issues. They call themselves the sons of light. Remember when we spoke about dualism, the dualism that comes from Zoroastrianism. This is also practiced by the Mandeans. Well, this language is used inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls. We also see different phrases like the great builder of truth, the house of perfection. This phrase very much reminisces the house of perfection and truth that is found inside of the Dead Sea Scrolls. But as I said, the purpose of this presentation is to explain that the people who began the religion of Judaism were converts and seeing themselves as converts. I think that's something that's important to emphasize, because today, in modern times, we know that most people who are Jewish believe that they are the Hebrews. No, the original people who they come from, the Mandeans, they knew they were converts. They said they were converts, okay? So we're going to read through a few of the manuscripts of the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're going to start with the Exhortation Scrolls. So this scroll is interesting because this is the narrative given from the keepers of the Dead Sea Scrolls as far as what happened to biblical Yasharel. And these people, by the way, knew that Yasharel was in East Africa. We know they knew it was in East Africa because of the Genesis Apocryphon, which they kept, which shows that the land of Yasharel was in East Africa, as was explored by Abraham. And we also know because of the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees, again, says that Shem's lot is inside of East Africa and some Islam of Southern Arabia. So they read these books, they studied these books. They were aware that the original Yasharel was not Palestine, it was inside of East Africa. So here are these people who are based in Palestine, and they're giving their perspective on what happened with the original Hebrews who were based inside of East Africa. So it says, when they were unfaithful and forsook him, speaking of Yahuwah, he hid his face from Yasharel in his sanctuary and delivered them up to the sword. But remembering the covenant of the forefathers, he left a remnant to Israel, to Yasharel, and did not deliver it up to be destroyed. And in the age of wrath, 390 years after he had given them into the hand of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, he visited them, and he caused a plant root to spring from Yasharel and Aaron to inherit his land and to prosper on the things of his earth. And they perceived their iniquity and recognized that they were guilty men. Yet for 20 years they were blind men groping for the way. Hear now, all you who enter the covenant, and I will unstop your ears concerning the ways of the wicked. Yahuwah loves knowledge, wisdom, and understanding he has set before him, and prudence and knowledge serve him. Patience and much forgiveness are with him towards those who turn from transgression, but power, might, and flaming wrath by the hand of the angels of destruction towards those who depart from the way and abhor the precept. Now listen to this. This is bold for a reason. They shall have no remnant or survivor. For from the beginning, Yahuwah chose them not. He knew their deeds before they ever were created, and he hated their generations, and he hid his face from the land until they were consumed. This is obviously a very different narrative than what the Bible says. We know that although Yah certainly and rightfully punished Yasharel for its sins, that he never gave up on them and never forsook them, even when Yasharel had forsaken Yah. So again, this is their perspective on what happened to Yasharel, that essentially from the beginning, he did not really choose us, right? It says, for he knew the years of their coming and the length and the exact duration of their times for all ages to come and throughout eternity. He knew the happenings of their times throughout all the everlasting years, and in all of them he raised for himself men called by name, that a remnant might be left to the land, and that the face of earth might be filled with their seed. And he made known his Holy Spirit to them by the hand of his anointed ones, and he proclaimed the truth to them. But those whom he hated, he led astray. So as it says here, most of Israel, Yasharel, according to the text that's kept by the keepers of the Dead Sea Scrolls, most of Israel essentially were from the beginning. Yah didn't even really care for them. But he still, out of his mercy, left a remnant. And this remnant is basically redeemable. But for the nation, the whole nation, essentially, Yah knew who they were from the beginning. He did not choose them from the beginning. And so essentially done away with them, right? Again, not what the Bible says, not what I say. But this is how they viewed Yasharel. So we're still in the exhortation scroll. Let's go on and read about how, again, they view what happened to Yasharel. It says, but with the remnant which held fast to the commandments of Yahuwah, he made his covenant with Yasharel forever, revealing to them the hidden things in which all Yasharel had gone astray. He unfolded before them his holy Sabbaths and his glorious feasts, the testimonies of his righteousness and the ways of his truth, and the desires of his will, which a man must do in order to live. And they dug a well rich in water, and he who despises it shall not live. Yet they wallowed in the sin of man and ways of uncleanness, and they said, this is our way. But Yahuwah in his wonderful mysteries forgave them their sin and pardoned their wickedness, and he built them a sure house in Yasharel, whose like has never existed from former times till now. Those who hold fast to it are destined to live forever, and all the glory of Adam shall be theirs, as Yahuwah ordained for them by the hand of the prophet Ezekiel, saying, the priests, the Levites, and the sons of Zadok who kept the charge of my sanctuary, when the children of Yasharel strayed from me, they shall offer me fat and blood. Now, listen to this very closely. The priests are the converts of Israel who departed from the land of Yahudah, and the Levites who joined them. This says it boldly, clearly. I want to read it again and let you remember again my theory that essentially we know that some Edomites were residing in Yasharel, residing in Yahuda during the return whenever the temple was being rebuilt, right? The second temple. And we know that they eventually fled into Arabia. We know that they would go north into Palestine, okay? Knowing all this, listen to this very closely. The priests are the converts of Yasharel from the land of Yahuda, and the Levites are those who joined them. So it goes on to say, the sons of Zadok are the elect of Yasharel, the men called by name who shall stand at the end of days. Behold the exact list of their names according to their generations, and the time when they lived, and the number of their trials, and the years of their sojourn, and the exact list of their deeds. Okay, listen again. This is bold for a reason. The well is the law, and those who dug it were the converts of Israel, who went out to the land of Yahuda to sojourn in the land of Damascus. Yahuwah called them all princes because they sought him, and their renown was disputed by no man. The stave and the interpreter of the law, of whom Isaiah said, he makes a tool for his work, and the nobles of the people are those who come to dig the well with the staves with which the stave ordained that they should walk in all the age of wickedness, and without them they shall find nothing until he comes, who shall teach righteousness at the end of days. Let's go on. And obviously this is an ancient scroll. Some of the words are missing because some of them did not survive time. So it says and you see that some of the words didn't survive. That they may bring near, each according to his spirit and deeds, they that depart by the decision of the guardian. And these are the precepts in which all the converts of Israel shall walk, the sons of Zadok, the priests, because they are converts of Israel. Now, at this time, I want to pause and go to the Gospel of Luke. Yahusha replied and said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among robbers, and they stripped him and beat him and went away, leaving him half dead. Okay, this is a parable many of you probably know of, talking about the quote-unquote Good Samaritan. Now, it says, and by chance, a priest was going down on that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. But verse 32 says, likewise a Levite also, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. Now, the question should jump out, and it didn't jump out to me before, but then now I see it. If it was a Levite and a priest, we know that according to Torah, who were the priests? The priests were the Levites. So when we see that a priest goes first and that a Levite, they are separate inside of Yahusha's time. The priests are not the Levites, although there might be some Levites among them. There's a separation, meaning the priests, as we read here, are the converts. They were converts to the faith, whereas the Levites were the original priesthood chosen by Yah. That's a very important part to remember, because when we're going forward talking about how it was that the Pharisees, right, ended up back inside of Yasharel, ended up back inside of East Africa. They weren't going back the way they left. They left Edomite, but they come back now being a priesthood. And we're going to talk about who that priesthood was. Some of you might be surprised when we talk about who the priesthood is. I want to end off this video talking about what was the agenda of these converts, right? Well, I think it's important to emphasize from when you read the Dead Sea Scrolls, the original intention of these Edomite converts, when we literally read in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the intention of these converts was not to replace Yasharel. And I want to emphasize that, because although they looked at Yasharel as not chosen, they looked at Yasharel as Yah set you aside. You know, we basically came and helped you. We are the ones that's teaching you the law. Although they took that position, they still recognized that Yah had chosen Yasharel, and so for that remnant, they seen that remnant as needing some guidance. So I want to read from another scroll from the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is called the War Scroll, and you're going to get why for these people, they identified that the destiny of Yasharel was linked to them, at least for what they say, and why they do want Yasharel to turn back to Yah. So it says, the sons of Levi, Yehuda, Benjamin, the exiles in the desert, shall battle against them, all their bands, when the exiled sons of light return from the desert of the peoples to camp in the desert of Jerusalem. And after the battle, they go up from there to Jerusalem. Now, who are they battling? The people they're battling is Kittim. And Kittim is widely accepted to be the Romans, right? Now, it's important to emphasize what it says right here. It says, the sons of light. Who were the sons of light? Remember, dualism, Zoroastrianism, the Mandaeans. How do they identify themselves? They are the sons of light. They are the sons of light who are going to guide the original tribes, Levi, Yehuda, and Benjamin. They are going to guide them back to the Torah. So when it tells you that the sons of light return from the desert of the peoples, okay? The sons of light, the people in Palestine, they said they returned from the deserts of the peoples, and they're going to camp in the desert of Jerusalem, and after the battle they shall go up from there to Jerusalem. That means that these Mandaeans, these sons of light, saw themselves as their mission was to return to Jerusalem, the real one that they know is, as is documented in Jubilees and also the Genesis Apocrypha, and they know it is inside of East Africa. They were going to have to leave the desert they were in, which is Palestine, and they were going to have to go to Jerusalem, go to the true Yasharel, and have a part in this battle. So let's go to the next part. It says, the king of Kittim shall enter into Egypt, and in his time he will set out in great wrath to wage war against the kings of the north, and his fury may destroy and cut the horn of Yasharel. This shall be a time of salvation for the people of Yahuwah, an age of dominion for all the members of his company, and the everlasting destruction for all the company of Belial. The confusion of the sons of Japheth shall be great, and Assyria shall fall unsuccored. The dominion of Kittim shall come to an end, and the iniquity shall be vanquished, leaving no remnant. For the sons of darkness there shall be no escape. The sons of righteousness shall shine over all the ends of earth. They shall go on shining until the seasons of darkness are consumed, and the season appointed by Yahuwah, his exalted greatness, shall shine eternally to the peace, blessing, glory, joy, and long life of all the sons of light. So now it makes sense. We know that the Romans, who is widely identified as Kittim, we know that the Romans were ruling over Palestine. We know that the Mandaeans at this time were based inside of Palestine. So the fact that they have identified that, according to them, I guess they prophesied that this was going to happen. The Romans were going to go into East Africa, and it was their job to protect the true Yasharel, to go and teach them the ways of Yah. And from there, Yah would come and save them from the people of Kittim. And the people would now be exalted, and Yah's greatness would show from the land once again. So that was their entire motive in going back to Yasharel. So now we're going to have to talk about where they went from there. And this is where things get very interesting. I'm not going to go into it just yet. But for now, I thank you all for watching this presentation. Again, if you want to read the book, you can. That's the cheat sheet. If you want to get to the end, it is available on Amazon, Conspiracy to Erase a Nation. Thank you all for your support, and Yah willing, I'll see you on the next video.